Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk about probably the most exciting and interesting NAS that I saw at Computex 2018. I want to talk about the HS 453DX. Now, I've seen a lot of NAS at Computex 2018 this week, and next week in CeBIT I'm going to see a whole load more. But today I want to talk about the one that really stood out for me. So much so, it wasn't just me alone. It actually won an award, the DNI award for design, kind of went to this device. There were lots of things listed there, and this won an award alongside it. Now, the HS 453DX is the latest silent NAS to be part of QNAP's silent NAS range of devices, designed to be fanless and also make the smallest imprint on your environment, home or business. Now, it's a 4-bay device, but there are still some questions yet to be asked. Now, I did ask a couple of people there and they gave me no answer at all. So there will be some elements of this video which might be subject to change. The things that we're not sure about, I will make a complete point to highlight that they are TBC. Straight away, this 4-bay, we don't know what the storage media that goes inside this is. I think it's fairly obvious based on the size and the fact that it's using the same chassis as the other silent NAS, is very slim, very small, that this is going to be SSD related. Now, whether it's going to be SATA based SSD, 2.5-inch SATA, 60 gigabits per second, or NVMe based SSDs, or even standard S2 SATA, we don't know. I hope to God it is NVMe based SSD, or at least M2, because that will make the smallest amount of heat dissipation and energy consumption while still maintaining high speed levels. Because it's a 4-bay, you're going to have RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6 and RAID 10 options, which is great if you want to use some of it as caching or the whole thing as live fast storage. Talking of live fast storage, it's worth mentioning that we don't actually know the CPU either. Given the ports on the rear of this, as you can see from the top of the screen, as well as the storage medium and the ports on the rear, we can definitely ascertain that it's going to be an x86 based chip, and of course it's 64-bit in architecture, which could mean it could be the brand new AMD that we've seen knocking around, not the Ryzen, one of the RX series, or it could be that popular chip that we're seeing everywhere, the Intel J3455 quad core. I'm gearing more towards that one, if I'm honest. Based on the history of these devices, I do think it's going to be that Intel quad core 1.6 GHz chip that could be bursted up to 2.3 GHz, along with 2 to 8 gig of DDR3L memory. Now, once again, TBC, that is conjecture, but I'll be honest, I'm pretty certain about it. Now, you may notice the colour of this is very different. One of the other reasons it won a design award, and I personally fell in love with this the minute I saw it, is it's got a copper lid. Some might argue rose gold or bronze or whatever. I think it's copper. And that top lid there also acts for heat dissipation. It works as a kind of native heatsink. And that's something we saw on the other silent NAS devices. They had this large steel plate across the top to facilitate heat dissipation given that lack of fan. But given this is hopefully going to be 4 SSDs, they should be less of a problem. The bottom is white all the way around, and if we go to the rear of the devices that we can see on the top of the screen, we can see a multitude of interesting ports. Let's go for that number one, the most interesting of all, 10 gigabit Ethernet. QNAP have really been hitting this subject hard. Almost all of their new releases either feature 10 gigabit Ethernet, 10G over fiber, SFP+, or copper, 10G base T, which is kind of like RJ45, what everyone uses for internet connectivity. Almost all of their devices have featured 10 GBE as a port, or a PCIe slot on the device that lets you add 10 GB at a later date. Almost their entire range, in fact, features 10 GBE. Not sure? Look for any NAS that's got an X on the end or has a PCIe slot. That covers almost everything QNAP have put out there in the last 12 months. Now, this device has 10 GBE, and if it has got 4 SSDs, that removes almost all bottlenecks. You've removed the bottleneck of SATA with single drives by having 4 SSDs with insane read writes, and 10 gigabit Ethernet on the back to give you that great throughput and connection to the device, whether it's going directly into a 10 GB enabled switch or directly into a PC or Mac system. So that's a great idea on a good looking device that is also silent. So there are so many things going for this device that I'm way too excited, and I'm really worried that it's not going to deliver upon release. I've been around a lot of NASes, and I can honestly say that this is the first one in a long time I'm genuinely excited about, because it ticks so many boxes, and it gives another underline to the fact that QNAP are still the innovators in this NAS industry. They are not just putting their feet up and popping out the old products over and over again with a new badge. I'm talking to you, Drobo, stop doing that. Now, also along with that 10GBE, we had a 1 gigabit Ethernet port, RJ45. We've got 2 USB 3 ports, 2 USB 2 ports, a little surprising, but also 2 HDMI ports. I'm willing to bet they're both 1.4B. Be nice if one of them was HDMI 2, but I don't think it will be. But again, thanks to having that and a speaker and those audio in and out ports, not only can this be used for the home and multimedia and for business, for backups, but on top of that, it can be a standalone surveillance platform and network based, supporting, we don't know how many cameras. I'd like to hope at least 25 to 40 based on that CPU that we hoped was going to be inside. But on top of that, everything Plex is going to be supported, because I cannot imagine anything other than an x86 64-bit architecture chip inside this device, you know, with that kind of connectivity on the rear. So we are going to see Plex on this device. On top of that, you're going to have Plex via the HDMI port on the rear, and all of those great applications available to you straight away from the beginning. It is worth mentioning, like all the other silent NASs, heat is probably going to be a factor on this. But if they've got around that with SSDs, particularly M2 or NVMe SSDs, I think this could be a really interesting NAS. And the last thing, of course, is going to be the price point and release, because we don't know the price point of this. Most of the old silent NASs went for about 350 to 380 quid. They cost more than traditional NASs, because even though they didn't have the fan, they were designed to be silent. And I think this device is going to be in that mold, and it won't be cheap, especially because of that 10GBE port there on the rear. But even if it is around about the 400 NECA mark, it's still going to be quite interesting when we got our hands on it here for the channel for speed testing, and definitely temperature sensors too. Now, I'll be doing an update video when I know more about this device, more to do with the CPU and the RAM, and I look forward to letting you know. But this will support QTS 4.3.5 when it's officially released, and will arrive with 2 years of manufacturer's warranty. If you've got any other questions or any other queries about this device, pop them down there in the comments, and I'll look at them for next week at CeBIT 2018. Or alternatively, do check out the link that goes to my article on the HS453DX, which I will be updating regularly with more specs as I know them. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to learn more about what's going on at Computex 2018. And of course, when we've got boots on the ground, we'll be there at CeBIT in Hanover next week. Do check that out. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.